So I'm delighted this morning to spend time with Alex Harrington-Griffin, who I initially met about 7 years ago at a property networking meet. I think it was when I was, well, I think you had to be under 30, was it? 18 to 30 or 18,
That was
something
it.
like
It was
that.
the Yes Network with Carly Ward.
Yeah, Yes Network. Um, and I met Alex there from Business Crayon at the time. And since then, you've moved more into the property world. And the focus of this particular presentation or video is to focus on your recent development. Alex, do you want to just let the listeners know how you've moved from Business Crayon into the property world?
Yeah, so Business Crayon was a tech business, online startup essentially. We managed to sell it after about 10 months, which was great. It was a B2B group buying for small business and startups. After that, I went and did a bit of consultation on partnerships and kind of had a bit of itchy feet and decided that I wanted to go and start a business abroad. It would be my ambition to do that before I was 30. So I moved to South Africa, started 3 businesses there over a period of 2.5 years, and still have one running now. Sold one of them, and one of them we closed down. But one of them was a marketing agency working with slightly smaller companies, and I became quite friendly with Remax and Knight Frank out there, and started doing a lot of their content and building partnerships with other sort of relevant industries. So lawyers, with moving companies, with just different people that they were interested in partnering with as well. So in spending time with Knight Frank, I started to understand a little bit more about the international property scene. And, you know, there was so much attention and talk around London. It kind of got me thinking after working about 6 months, working on working with a little bit of their investment content, that maybe there was a lot going on in London, which I was kind of missing out on, as well as missing friends and family. I kind of thought now might be the time to return. My family's been in property for about 45 years. So between my dad and his brothers, they've all covered pretty much every area of property. So I knew I had a good network to go into. I was quite lucky in that sense. And I came back about 3 years ago. Spent about 6 months working with a land company, understanding how planning works, how the big guys sort of choose and execute the big developments. And then started Coeur de Lion Property, just sort of looking at a little bit of land trading in the beginning, and then got into development, which is kind of where we've ended up now.
Did you say land trading?
Land trading, yes. So getting land that hadn't had planning permission, obtaining the best planning permission, and then selling it on as well, which is what my family's been involved in for a long time as well.
And was that, would you say, at auction, or where did you sell the land on to?
My father's always used an expression, which is when he's got a good piece of land, he feels like the prettiest girl in a small town, which basically means that if you've got something that is worthwhile and is a good site, everybody wants it, and they'll find out about it as well. You speak to 1 or 2 people, and suddenly word gets out, especially if you're being realistic in what you sell it for as well. So he's never had to use auctions. So I think I've kind of taken a lot of my learning from his side of things, and whether you use as an agent or whether it's just putting the word out there, you're selling a site and there's some decent margins to be made on it, good fundamentals, it's a nice suitable site for the area, word gets out pretty quickly.
Sure. And in terms of looking for, I cut you off there, I know you're going to continue from land trading, and then after land trading you've moved on to...
Yeah, so I kind of cut my teeth in development, started about 2 years ago. We were actually looking at a very large commercial building that we actually had owned as commercial space, and we're going to convert it into residential. So I went through all the planning element as well as kind of the construction meetings, understanding how we would go about it from a technical standpoint. And then we obtained the permission, decided not to sell it and not to convert it, because actually through permitted development, the commercial rates in this town had gone up so much that for us owning the asset already, it was a great source of income and great cash flow for us. And my father, who's owned the property for a long time, it's great sort of for his retirement pot. What I did from there was start to look at different parts of the site that maybe were more suitable for residential, and how we could use permitted development to convert those. So we started off beginning of last year doing 10 apartments on a 10,000 square foot office space there, which through going through the process of understanding, I immersed myself in the development side. I wanted to learn everything there was about development. Took on probably a lot more than I was ready for, but I learned through doing. And I was lucky the fact that I had the family network around me to guide me. But I asked a lot of stupid questions. I warned everyone we were working with that I would ask a lot of questions throughout every meeting. So they probably took about an hour longer than they needed to, but it put me to a point where I felt confident to go into this now development that we've got planning for recently, with a lot more sort of confidence in what I'm doing. There's so much more to learn, but I now have a very good understanding, especially if you know the site and you know the sort of complications or anything with it, you're a lot more better prepared.
Sure. We were discussing beforehand just some of the key things we were going to cover, including the software which you use. And you mentioned you're a big fan of Land Insight, created by Johnny Britton and his co-founder. What does Land Insight do for you? So for those who've never heard of Land Insight before, or maybe even considering using Land Insight?
As Johnny and sort of people who know me will know, that I promote it to the high heavens. It is, from when I first spent my time learning about land and how you source land, how you then sort of track it, because these things take time. You can't just do them overnight. You need to sort of keep constant contact. A lot of it's about timing. Luck is some part of it, and definitely skill, but timing for the landowners especially. And in the time it takes to fully review a site and decide whether you put it at the top of your priority list or the bottom, I think I was spending sort of 4 to 5 hours maybe doing the first round checks. Something like Land Insight has taken that down to probably an hour and a half max, but also the fact that we can use one single system to put all our notes in and have all of our sites at the ready to quickly check and reference it's definitely made a huge improvement. So that's kind of one of the biggest, I think, software programs that we've sort of benefited from in the last couple of years. And I'm surprised it wasn't around sooner in its kind of current form. But I think there'll be definitely competitors to it now that people have realised how much benefit it has for developers and land companies.
Sure. And we were discussing the classic CRM systems you use as well. Although I think for most property investors or property developers, the key thing is to get the insight from you about Land Insight and what it does for you. And you mentioned about saving, I think you said 4 to 5 hours down to 1 to 1.5 hours, which is a massive saving. Did you say that's per deal, per week, or in terms of time frame? And if we're looking at over...
Yeah, per serious site that we evaluate, and we probably evaluate within our team, we've got 2 full-time land guys who find and appraise sites. And we sort of go through 2 phases. So first is kind of, as most people do, your basic checks, your flood risk assessments, your AONB areas, your greenbelt checks, previous planning history. Even that part of it, a lot of those tasks are integrated into Land Insight, like the previous planning, for example. That's a fantastic tool. It's been incredibly useful in speeding up the process. And then through the second round of checks, looking at things like, I suppose, the land ownership, looking through covenants, even speeding up that process. So the land registry, as we all know, still as a public entity, is not the most efficient of tools to use. It's definitely sped it up for us in terms of checking ownership and looking through previous planning history. Just measuring up sites, looking at potential of land assembly as well. The fact that it's designed for property development compared to things like Google Earth. Okay, ProMap's good, but I think this just sped up things dramatically for us, and I'm sure a lot of other developers.
Sure. And in terms of, you had a fascinating answer to this question about the best investment for under £100. I preferred your second question or your second answer rather. So your answer was?
Well, I said 2 things, but the thing I said second was a very rigid selfie stick. So we spent about £35 each on very, very nice selfie sticks that have about 3.5 meters reach them as well. So that when we go to sites, and we've been to sites, especially we do a lot of focuses on Hounslow and Ealing at the moment. So you're in urban areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. a lot of the properties you go to, you need to know what's around you. You need to know if you've got a single story MOT garage, for example, and you're proposing 3 stories to fit in with a street scene. What are the views from the second story window going to be? What are my risk of overlooking the properties behind me? How close am I going to be to habitable space, to my left, right, in front of me, behind me as well? And a lot of time when you first go to a site and you're sort of trying to peer over a wall, you can't see these sort of things. So we've kind of, just short of getting a drone, we've sort of emulated, the views from different perspectives, what people will see, and also any complications we'll have from a planning perspective.
No, that's interesting what you said there. It's interesting you mentioned drones and technology. It's really just given me an idea, partially because I know Johnny is at my upcoming Central London evening meet next month, also with Urban Intelligence as well. No one speaking on drones or anything like that yet, although it has been used in the UK for developers already, drones. In terms of, well, we've looked at the aspects of your best investment. What's the best nugget of advice someone's given you which you've taken away? It doesn't have to be property focused, can be business focused.
I think I did a lot of background in sales, and I think what I've noticed so far, whether it's a marketing agency, whether it's a training business, whether it's finding land and opportunities or developing, is you're always selling in some degree. You're always selling, whether it's yourself or a product or a solution or a service. And I think what some people get bogged down in is the features of their own products or their own service, or how many years they've been doing for something. Especially with landowners, and I've realized in this industry, every single situation is so unique as to, when it comes down to tax or their children or how long they've been in business for, or their emotional attachment. Emotional attachment is a big thing we've noticed is, people having the space, but it's almost like a family silver. They don't want to let it go. So trying to come up with a solution that is fit for the person you're talking to, and considering what their pain points are, is the biggest thing that's helping in any business. Rather than going in what we can do, it's about what they or you can get from us as a service or a business, and what it's going to help you achieve. That's helped us dramatically in kind of agreeing deals with landowners. We've now tied up a fair few option agreements and land promotion agreements as well, which we use as cash flow for our business. And just really trying to get to grips with what landowners want, kind of really tailors our sales solution or our solution we're trying to offer them.
Sure. And in terms of your vision going forward, whether we're looking in short term, lot 1 to 3, I say 3 years short term, but 3 medium, or going a little bit longer term to 5 years, what's your vision for CDL?
I think the biggest thing I'm trying to push at the moment is transparency. I think we want to get a very, very good reputation for transparent transactions. And I'd like to think that I'm big into collaboration. I like working with other people. I like getting different perspectives, and I've got my ideas, and I'm quite sort of independent in that way. But bringing other people to the table and working together to get something bigger, I've been a big fan of. I ran a partnership marketing blog for several years. I run collaboration seminars in South Africa myself. So I like the idea of looking how we can work with other people who are really pioneering, and not to piggyback off them, but just to kind of all help get to somewhere further along than we want to be at the moment, but also change the industry. I feel the industry at the moment is too much sort of smoke and mirrors in terms of transactions, in terms of what landowners receive as their fee, in terms of thinking about what a buyer of a particular, if it's an apartment or a house or whatever, or commercial unit, what they get. I think there's got to be more transparency, and I would like Coeur de Lion to have a very, very strong reputation for collaboration and transparency.
Sure. And in terms of, and this be the final question for the moment, and I'm sure we'll come back to do a more detailed video, or I think you're possibly speaking for me at some point when your diary fits, because I know you're busy at the moment. In terms of looking at the purchasing criteria post-Brexit, I feel a bit uneasy saying post-Brexit because we haven't quite left Europe yet, but people do use the phraseology post-Brexit. So how has that impacted your purchasing criteria?
It's kind of reinforced what we were gearing up to do anyway, which is to focus on smaller sites. In terms of how we're equipped, we focus on sites that are maybe 4 to 8 units, ideally. We want to get to know our areas extremely well. So our boroughs of Hounslow and Ealing, East Berkshire, we want to get to know those areas extremely well so that we are not looking at anything outside of those areas. We are not looking at anything that doesn't match our criteria perfectly in terms of what we can build or in fact we can get planning for. And really trying to focus on areas that we know we're getting success at the moment. So there's sometimes people come and dangle a nice sort of shiny site at you that they say 20, 30 units, and it's very exciting, and it's very, especially being my age and our age and being ambitious, you want to try and take on the world and grow the company. But I think not having all our eggs in one basket and also being able to build different kinds of products in different areas with a slightly different, looking at different parts of the market, I think we've just really focused on doing but smaller sites. We did 3 last year. We want to try and up that to 6 this year, and just get really, really good at a particular type of product in a certain type of area.
Sure. Alex, when you mentioned the word Ealing, it was interesting for a number of different reasons. One of the reasons is I have an auctioneer presenting for me in the next month or 2, hopefully in the month rather than 2, who's based in West London, Ealing. So that's why my ears picked up quite strongly. You were at the Property Development Summit recently. What did you take away from that particular summit? What was the aha moment?
I think the early part of the day for me was about looking at sites and how you evaluate sites. It's a big part of what we do. I really enjoy it. I think reinforcing some of the things that we've learned through various courses and just through being out there speaking to people. Tim Hodges was speaking there as well. Some of the things he sort of, I think sometimes especially in your, maybe the first 5 years of doing something like this, you're trying to get confident, you're trying to learn to trust your gut and making decisions. But until you've done it enough, for a certain number of years, you always second guess yourself. And I think hearing things from Paul Higgs, who we know very well, and Tim Hodges, about how to just having your criteria and sticking with it and not sort of getting distracted by things that maybe look a bit shiny or suddenly someone says there's a great GDV to be earned on something. Yeah, you've got to be open to opportunities, but I think just being confident in saying, this is our product, this is our target area, this is what we want to sell, per square foot. For the fact that, hearing those 2 individuals talk about how well it's worked for them by sticking with a strategy, I think gave us confidence that we're doing the right thing by having a strategy and working to it. Being open to changes, maybe every 6 to 12 months, reevaluating, see what's happening. Brexit was a huge influence on everyone's strategy, but I think as long as you've got a plan and you're just readjusting it every so often, and being confident in that plan. Nicholas Fox?
Marshall.
Nicholas Marshall. I think I remember seeing him at your first one-day event in June last year. Was it your first event?
Sure, yeah. First one-day event for 6 or 7 years. So
yeah, he sort of was the first person who sort of reinforced very publicly that he only looks at one certain area, one sort of portion of I think it was down the
Southeast.
Yeah, but it was even more restricted to that. And I spoke to him during one of the breaks and said, I've heard about this site. It's a little bit beyond your stretch. And he just said, we don't know the area well enough. And I thought, well, okay, would I be that brave to say, I just turn away a site that maybe comes from someone who is slightly established, talking about myself. But and I admired him for saying, no, that is our area. These are the areas we want to know everything about. But if it's beyond them, we'll leave it for now.
Sure.
I've really liked people who sort of take that approach, and I've seen the benefits of what they've achieved through that.
Yeah, and Nicholas is co-hosting my next meet in Wandsworth. He regularly does. It's a panel focus on property development and looking at the finance side.
I've got to pick his brain about contamination for his petrol station site. We've got a petrol station at the moment that I'm hearing all sorts of views and opinions on contamination.
Yeah, I've seen that on Facebook. Or maybe it's a different article I've seen on Facebook, but I thought it was the same one, possibly. I was going to say, Alex, people can connect with you at my meets. You come regularly to my meets. You're going to be presenting at some point when your diary allows you as well. However, some people may be listening to this interview and may be thinking, look, we're not based in London, we're based somewhere else in the UK or maybe outside of UK. How can they connect with you?
I'm a big fan of Twitter. It's helped me dramatically in several businesses, and it's kind of a nice shorthand way to connect with people. And I've recently sort of started chatting to people like Nicole Bremner through your events, but mainly through Twitter. So Alex_H_Griffin is my Twitter handle. I do use things like LinkedIn as well, but I'm keen on sort of meeting up people and networking. I think your events seem to bring the best of the best, the people we want to be hanging around. So definitely at your events, I think it's a little plug for you there. But honestly, I think in terms of the events we go to, I always get the most benefits and the biggest sort of takeaways from people I meet at your event.
Okay. Very nice to hear, Alex. Just want to say huge thanks for you taking time out. I'm sure we're going to go into a lot more detail in another video. I know we're going to go into a lot more detail when you present as well. But just to reiterate, the best way to connect with you is on Twitter, Alex_H. Sorry, do you want to give your...
Alex_H_Griffin, or if you want to email me, alex@cdlproperty.com. We're very, very open to the ideas of joint ventures, and we're very we're very big on building relationships with people. Trust is a big thing, though, so we like to get to know people before we jump into a JV bed with them.
Sure. And you're not based in central London, you're based out to the west, is that right?
We've got offices in Chiswick, where I'm today. We've got offices in Chiswick, in Surrey, and in Gloucestershire.
Okay, so huge thanks for you taking time out, and huge thanks to the listeners. And if there's targeted questions you want to ask, well, there's a couple of different ways. One, connect with Alex directly, or connect with me on YouTube or other social media channels and let me know what questions you'd like asked from Alex or other potential property investors stroke developers. So huge thanks for you joining me today, Alex, and huge thanks to the listeners as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brendan.
Thank you so much.